Hello and thank you so much for tuning in. So today I'm going to be doing the very first Critique My Collection video here on my channel. This is going to be a series wherein I review products from the immediately preceding Shop My Stash video. And since the last Shop My Stash video, which I posted a little while ago, was the first one on my channel, this is the first Critique My Collection video. So let's go ahead and talk about the products, and hopefully my next Shop My Stash video will be up pretty soon. So the first product that I wanted to talk about is the MAC Strobe Cream in the shade Goldlite, and I mentioned in the Shop My Stash video that I was bringing this in because it was a product that I had been neglecting. I hadn't really used it before I put it into the Shop My Stash, and I can tell you that I really enjoyed this product, so much so that even beyond the time that I used the products in the Shop My Stash, because I just used those for about 2 to 3 weeks, I continued to use this product, and I still am using it to this day. Partly because, again, I do want to actually finish this product up, but also because I really genuinely enjoy using this product. I find that this adds a really nice radiance to my skin. Basically, I've been using it underneath my foundation, and it does provide that kind of glow from within look. I will say that I typically will wear light to medium coverage foundations on an everyday basis, and I find that this looks so nice underneath those products. I'm also oily combination, and I find that this product doesn't exacerbate oiliness on my skin, which is a problem that I can run into with a lot of products that market radiance or dewiness, but this doesn't cause that, and it's kind of a unicorn in that sense. So this is a product that I will continue to use and potentially may even repurchase in the future. But of course, I need to finish this one up first. The next product that I have is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Liquid Glow Face Highlighter, and I brought this in for similar reasons to the Strobe Cream. It was a product that I wasn't reaching for a lot, and I was a little bit intimidated by this as well because it is a liquid highlighter, and I just felt like, you know, this would be much more finicky to use than a regular powder highlighter, but I found that it actually wasn't very hard to use at all, which I did mention, I think, in the original Shop My Stash video as well. I just applied a couple of dots of this to the face, and then I blended it out with a sponge, and it just looked seamless every time. The only unfortunate thing about this product is I mentioned in the Shop My Stash video that I wanted to use this as a body highlighter as well. I figured that would allow me to have another use for this product and also allow me to use more of it at a time, because obviously if I was using this as a body highlighter, I would use more product than when I was using it just as a face highlighter. But unfortunately, I found that instead of looking really nice and like this seamless glow on the, you know, sort of chest area, this ended up looking more like I had random specks of glitter all over than anything else. So unfortunately, this is a no-go as far as a body highlighter, but I will continue to use it as a face highlighter. And fortunately, even though I am kind of a highlighter junkie when it comes to powder highlighters, I've reined myself in from buying too many of these liquid highlighters because I know that they are not going to have as much of a shelf life in my collection. But I will try to remember to reach for this, especially because it is more of a neutral color, so I find that it goes with a lot of things, so I don't really have any excuses not to reach for this as much. Next up, let me talk about the eyeshadows that I brought into the Shop My Stash, and these first two I'll mention together because they are very similar colors, as you can probably see. This is the Colourpop Super Shock Shadow in the shade Lightning Bug, and this is the Dose of Colors EYEdeal Duo in the shade Sunset. So like I said, I'm mentioning these together because they're very similar in color and tone, and because I actually ended up reaching for this Super Shock Shadow a little bit more because this was a lot easier to use. I really have enjoyed the Super Shock Shadow formula over the years because I feel like they're really easy to use. They're very much one and done type shades, and if you purchase their ultra glitter formulas, which this one is, they're one of the easiest ways to get a very high impact look with very little work. I find that I don't even have to use eyeshadow primer, which I typically do with most eyeshadows when I'm using the Colourpop Super Shock Shadows. So this was very much easy to swipe onto the lids. In fact, I am wearing this on my lids today. I shared it out a lot because I wanted that kind of a look, but if you want this to appear basically almost as intense as it is showing in this shot, you can get it to look that way. Unfortunately, I didn't have as much luck with this, which is again the Dose of Colors EYEdeal Duo in the shade Sunset. This, as the name suggests, comes with 2 eyeshadow products, so you get this product here on top, which I call an eyeshadow base. Dose of Colors markets this as a primer, but I wouldn't consider this to be a primer at all. It's a very tacky eyeshadow base that does not set down, that will crease if you don't put on a primer underneath it. And I found that if you go and read reviews on this product, you'll see a lot of people complaining that this creases. So I would say if you have this product, even though Dose of Colors, again, they're marketing this as a primer, which makes you think that you don't have to put on something underneath it, try using it with a primer because it will crease on you if you don't do that, I feel. And even if you have oily lids, I would say probably just stay away from it, honestly, because you might even crease with primer if you have particularly oily lids. I don't, so I can't speak to that, but yeah. And then this is the loose pigment that you get at the bottom, which is a really gorgeous deep bronze color. Probably looks darker than the shade Lightning Bug, and in actuality it is, but as you probably saw, the primer that's on top here is much lighter. So when I combine the two colors, it ends up looking very much like Lightning Bug. And if you go back and watch the Shop My Stash video, that's where I did the swatches of these products, so you can actually see what these products look like swatched out. And you'll see that I swatched both of these next to each other, and you'll see how similar they look. So I just feel like, because this was so easy to use, it's kind of like, what was my incentive for even reaching for something like this? I feel like now that we're starting to see more high impact formulas like this, that are like these sort of single cream eyeshadows that you just kind of swipe on, it makes it much harder to justify these types of like loose pigment products that do add a lot of shine to the lids but just aren't as unique anymore. And this is like a really old product in terms of like, this was released like years and years ago, and I feel like back then it was kind of like a novelty item and kind of like, you know, something special, but I don't really think that there's anything too special about these anymore. So I would absolutely recommend the Colourpop Super Shock Shadows if you haven't already tried them, especially the Ultra Glitter formula in particular, but the EYEdeal Duos, I can't really recommend these at all. Like, if your curiosity is slightly piqued by these, then I would definitely say wait for there to be a sale. I've seen these on sale at Ulta, I think for around 10 bucks maybe. And then I also have seen these on sale on Dose of Color's website. I think you can sometimes get these for like half off. So I would definitely wait for there to be a sale, because I just think that this product there's just too much work to do with it. And maybe I could even justify it if the primer product that you got on top was actually a primer and you didn't have to put on something underneath, but you do in order to not have it crease on you. So can't really recommend that one. Speaking of Colourpop Super Shock Shadows, another one that I pulled into this Shop My Stash was this shade here, which is called The 6, and I brought this in too because I thought that this would be like a nice, more subtle eyeshadow shade to use. This is one of Colourpop's metallic shades, even though I mentioned in the Shop My Stash video that this really reads more like a satin. Unfortunately, I just felt like I couldn't get this to work on my eyelids. I didn't like the way that it looked, and I actually didn't know that going into using this shadow because I had tried it before and didn't really like the look that I got. So I tried using different eyeshadows in the crease to just kind of get this color to complement me a little bit better, but nothing I did really worked, and I just didn't really like it that way. However, I did find a method of applying this product that I did really enjoy, and that was as a cheek product. So again, kind of like a blush highlighter hybrid. I'm actually wearing it on my cheeks today. I don't know, well, I was gonna say, I don't know if you can see it, but looking in the monitor, it looks like it's pretty visible. So it has this kind of like strong, like orangey base. So like when you're looking at me straight on, you can kind of see like that kind of blushy tone. And then, you know, when I turn and my face hits the light, you can see that sort of like strong, like acidic green type of shift that it has. But I love the way this looks. Even for this to be kind of like an unconventional color, I think this looks so beautiful on the skin. So it was kind of a fail as an eyeshadow, kind of a flop, but as a cheek product, I absolutely love this, and I will continue to use this as well. So the last single eyeshadow product that I used was this Makeup Forever Starlit powder, and this is in the shade 09, otherwise known as Coral. And this I expressed interest in using as both an eyeshadow and a blush, and I did do a monochromatic look using this, and it was one of my favorite looks that I did in the entire time of me using these Shop My Stash products. So I enjoyed this a lot, and I really like the way that Makeup Forever does their sort of like Starlit powders, which is basically, again, like a loose pigment product, because they have this sort of like opening, this sort of like small opening, so it makes it really easy to just like take your finger, put it over the opening, and flip over, so you get a good amount of product without there being, you know, a huge mess everywhere or having too much product spill out. And it was really easy to apply as well and blend it into the skin beautifully. So yeah, I enjoyed this as both an eyeshadow and a blush, but I can definitely see myself using this more so as a blush slash highlighter hybrid in the future, because again, it just has such a beautiful, deep, rich coral base, but that strong golden shift. So I love this product. I thought it was beautiful, and it's something that I will continue to use. Next up, I want to talk palettes, and one of the palettes I brought in was the Give Me Glow Summer Vibes palette. Mine looks It's extremely dirty because I was using it. But this is what this palette looks like on the inside. It's extremely summery in nature. I had used this palette prior to putting it in the Shop My Stash, but not really as a cohesive whole. I'd kind of reached in here for certain shades when I was doing certain looks, but I used it in the Shop My Stash kind of more as a cohesive whole and did some looks with it. In fact, I think in the Shop My Stash video, I used primarily this palette to complete that look. So overall, I really did enjoy using this palette. Give Me Glow makes one of my favorite eyeshadow formulas. There's really not much for me to say. The mattes are extremely pigmented. They can be a little bit powdery, but not super powdery. But they're very pigmented, so definitely go in with a light hand, but they do blend out easily. The metallics are absolutely blinding. They make some of the most metallic foil finishes that I've seen. So if you're really into high shine eyeshadows that just look like liquid metal, you would really enjoy the Give Me Glow metallic formula. So overall, I found that this palette was really easy to use. I do appreciate the fact that I can basically use all of the shades in here, even the shades that maybe look a little bit more suspect, like the shade Peach Snow Cone. I was definitely still able to use this on my skin tone. And then even Sunny. Sunny is actually pretty good yellow, so you know, yellows can be, you know, very hit or miss, but I found that pretty much all the shades in here worked very well. I did mention in the Shop My Stash video that the shade Mango Margarita is not quite as pigmented as it appears in the pan, but it was still a really nice color. It's kind of this interesting mix between yellow and orange, so it's pretty nonetheless. And yeah, overall, I just really enjoyed this palette. One of my favorite looks that I did is one in which I had Brazilian Bikini, and I just put this all over my lid, and then I used Watermelon on the lower lash line. So overall, I really had a fun time using this palette, and yeah, Give Me Glow has a great formula. So last up for eyeshadows, I wanted to talk about my Melt Baby Girl stack, and oh my goodness, I absolutely loved this stack. I hadn't used it much before putting into the Shop My Stash, which is why I wanted to put it in the Shop My Stash, and honestly, I think this is definitely a contender for my favorite stack from Melt. I think I have all of the stacks from Melt, and this one might be my favorite. I absolutely love the way that this looked. If you have a deeper skin tone and you've been looking for some good coral eyeshadows, because I feel like those can be very hard to find for darker skin tones because a lot of them can tend to be very white based, this is an amazing stack. So first of all, I feel like the cornerstone of the palette are these two shades right here, the two matte coral colors. You have this one, which is more of like a pink coral, and then this one, which is more of like an orange coral. And then everything, I think, kind of just forms around those two shades. You've got this beautiful sort of like iridescent coral shade essentially, and then you have these two shades here, which provide some good support to the corals. You've got this one here, which is like this bricky, sort of like deep, almost like, I guess you could classify it as like a deep dark coral, honestly. And then this shade, which is like basically the matte brown version that just complements the palette so well. So everything in here I think goes really well together. Again, one of my favorite looks I did was with this palette, and I did a few looks with this palette or stack, whatever you want to call it. And I remember one of the looks I wore to a party, and I kept getting compliments on my eyeshadow. In fact, one person even was like, they demanded to know like exactly what I was wearing, because like I have to like buy whatever it is you're wearing on your eyes. So I thought that was like really cool, because I don't tend to get too many comments about my eyeshadow or my makeup in general unless I'm in like a Sephora or Ulta, where people are generally more enthused about makeup anyways. So yeah, I really enjoyed this stack and would highly recommend it. I think it's, out of all the coral themed palettes or just coral eyeshadows I have in my collection, like this is definitely at the top of the list for me. Now I wanted to talk about the two other cheek products that I put into this Shop My Stash. This is the Becca Sunlit Bronzer in the shade Maui Nights, and this is the MAC Powder Blush in the shade Format. And I pulled both of these in because, again, I thought that they went really well with the sort of summery theme. This bronzer is one that I typically would only reach for in the summer anyways, because it's extremely red, which is not my preference for bronzers, but that's okay because this is the only one that I own, and I am never going to buy a reddish tone bronzer again because I just don't reach for them super often. However, this product, just speaking of the formula, is a really nice product, and I am glad that this has a little bit of a sheen to it. I think that if this were a powder, like a matte powder bronzer, I wouldn't like the way that this looked on the skin as much, as, again, especially because it is so red tone. But because it has that little bit of a sheen to it, I think that, I don't know, it just kind of seems like it melted into the skin a little bit better. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't want to say like I tolerate this product, because it is a nice product. I do like it. It's just one that is not up my alley as much, because I don't know, I don't think that we need to have these super red bronzers. And I feel like anytime darker skin tones do get a bronzer for us, they tend to be very, very red. I don't know what's up with that. Like, everybody thinks that we're red or orange. It's kind of annoying and frustrating, honestly, but this, for what it is a pretty good bronzer, and I'm glad that I brought it in, and I'm glad that I used it, because again, this is one of the only times that I would use it. I have gotten a decent amount of use out of this bronzer over the years though, because there was a time where this was pretty much the only bronzer I had, because again, companies making bronzers for dark skin isn't, I was going to say like didn't become a thing until like last year, but even now I feel like companies are very much so missing the mark when it comes to marketing bronzers and making bronzers for darker skin tones. But this is pretty much the first one that I bought, and I got a lot of use out of it because of that. But I feel like I do have other ones now that I just would prefer to reach for because they're more neutral tone, but I will continue to hold on to this and probably just continue to reach for it, honestly, in the warmer months. Now this product I can say I'm a lot more enthusiastic about because I just love the way this looks on my skin. I know it's called a blush, but I feel like it is more than that. I feel like, yes, it does come off blushy on the skin. It kind of gives off a similar look, honestly, to what you're seeing on my face now with the Colourpop Super Shock Shadow, because this has a very like bronzy orangey base, but then it has a golden shift. Obviously this is kind of like a golden green shift. This is more of just like a true gold shift, but this is beautiful on the skin. So I feel like it's kind of one of those all-in-one cheek products almost, because it does kind of, it adds warmth to the skin like you would want a bronzer to do, but it also has a blushy tone to it, and then it has that golden sheen that gives it this sort of like highlighted look. So I feel like this is a really good, like if you're in a rush and you just want your cheeks or your face to just look good and like you're glowing from within, this is one of those types of products, particularly for darker skin tones. So yeah, I love this. Got a lot of use out of it over the years, and it's something that I will continue to love in my collection. So glad that I put it in here. Lastly, I had a few lip products that I brought into the Shop My Stash as well, so I'll just go over those pretty quickly. The first one that I have here is the Colourpop Luxe lipstick in the shade Check Please. It's got some other lipstick on it because that's how I often wore this lipstick, was in conjunction with other like darker lip colors or lip liner. So this is like a very bright yellowy orange shade. I love this color because even though I have other orange tones in my collection of lipsticks, I don't really have any that are quite like this. I feel like most oranges tend to either be kind of more true oranges or they lean very much so red. So to have one that's very, very yellow based is it's pretty unique to my collection. And because I didn't, I showed like what these looked like swatched out on my hand in the Shop My Stash video, but I'll insert some clips of all of these lip products on my lips. But yeah, I absolutely loved how this looked. And as far as the formula goes, I do like the Colourpop Luxe lipstick formula. This is one of the matte ones, by the way. They are a little bit on the drying side, so I would just say, you know, make sure that your lips are nicely exfoliated. And I find that these can be worn pretty easily, like with some sort of a balm underneath, and it doesn't really disturb the formula too much. So that's also another alternative if you find these to be a little bit too drying. But I think it's a good formula, and they come in some very interesting and unique colors. So the next and other only bullet lipstick that I had in this Shop My Stash was the shade Maya La Belle. This was from the MAC and LC collection. Again, it's got some darker lipstick on it because I also wore this in conjunction with some darker lip colors or lip liners. This is just a beautiful red orange tone, and I love red oranges. And again, not really much to say about this. If you are familiar with MAC lipsticks, and this is one of their matte lipsticks, this performed exactly as you might expect it to. It goes on opaque, it's very comfortable on the lips. MAC makes one of my favorite lipstick formulas. It's just an easy, foolproof type of formula. So if you enjoy MAC lipsticks, then this was a good one. I don't think that this is available anymore because this was a limited edition collection. However, I've noticed that MAC limited edition collection items tend to linger around a lot longer, so you could find this. And another thing that I noticed or saw online was that this is apparently a dupe for Lady Danger. So if you have Lady Danger or you were interested in Lady Danger, then I think that this color is probably honestly exactly the same. It's a red orange, so I mean, how many ways can you do a red orange? Next up, I have the colored Raine matte lip paint in the shade Brickhouse. I brought this one in because I wanted a slightly darker lipstick to kind of have like a darker option as opposed to the last couple that I showed which were very bright. But what I found is that funnily enough, I didn't reach for this very much. I was reaching for the brighter tones a lot more often, and the times that I did reach for this was more so because I hadn't reached for it yet. Like, I think I wore this in the look that I did with the Give Me Glow Summer Vibes palette, where I had this sort of teal color on my lid and then the watermelon shade on my lower lash line, and I pulled this to wear with it because I was like, well, this isn't like, you know, the worst color to go with this look. You know, it's not, it wouldn't have been my first choice though, is what I'm trying to say. So I found myself reaching for this more so because it was in my Shop My Stash versus, oh, like this is a nice color that goes with the look that I'm wearing. And that's kind of just my fault. Honestly, I feel like this is probably better suited for now, like this time of year, because it's like a warm, like bricky, brownish red color. So it would have, I think, worked really nicely now, but you know, what are you gonna do? I did wear it, and Colored Raine does make one of my favorite liquid lipstick formulas, just to be very concise about it. They're opaque, they are comfortable to me, like they're a kind of formula where I don't feel them on my lips at all. You know, not to say that they're hydrating, but I just don't feel them, like they're a weightless formula. They don't transfer, and they dry down really quickly. Oh, and they mix really well with other liquid lipsticks. So like if you want to mix colors together within this formula or even with other formulas, I find that these mix really, really nicely. So it's a very fuss-free formula for liquid lipstick. I know that liquid lipsticks are not everybody's favorite cup of tea anymore, but if you're still into them or you want like a good, comfortable, long-lasting formula, this is definitely one that I would recommend. And they make tons of colors, and they make a lot of really great colors for darker skin tones as well. The last product that I have is the MAC Grand Illusion Liquid Lip Color. This is in the shade Let's Rock. I'm actually wearing this on my lips today, if you can or can't tell. It is this beautiful sort of like, again, orangey, bronzy orangey base lip gloss with a sort of green shift to it. Almost like the lip gloss version of the Colourpop eyeshadow that I showed earlier. And I really do like this color, but I did mention this in the Shop My Stash video that it kind of looks a little bit more boring on the lips than it does in the tube. And in fact, you can kind of see now, like my lips have like somewhat of a sheen to them, somewhat of like a green sheen, but it's not like super, super in your face. However, I did note that, you know, when you apply this initially, it does look that way. So it's just that over time, this just becomes more and more boring looking, you know, more and more quote unquote wearable, you know. So I guess like the upside to that is, you know, this was a lot easier to wear in sort of like situations like, oh, I could potentially wear this to work because it doesn't end up looking all that, you know, crazy or, you know, space agey on the lips as it does appear in the tube. But on the downside, you know, I bought this because I wanted it to be that type of lip gloss. But that being said, I still like this. I like this a lot, and you know, the issue of it kind of wearing down in its intensity can be remedied by reapplying it, which is always good because reapplying a product means that you're getting more use out of it. So I mean, it's, you know, not the worst of problems. And on top of that, I think this is actually a really good lip gloss formula. It's not extremely sticky, and it doesn't have a tendency to feel heavy on the lips or kind of sink into the lips, which I find some really heavy lip glosses can do. In fact, I would say formula wise, this isn't too far off from the Anastasia Beverly Hills lip gloss formula. Obviously the difference being that those are very opaque lip glosses for the most part, other than, you know, the couple of sheer ones that they offer. This is obviously meant to be a topper type of product, but formula wise this feels pretty similar. If you've ever tried those are probably the most comfortable lip glosses I've ever tried. I would say these are maybe a little bit stickier, but overall they're very, very comfortable. So that concludes my first Critique My Collection video. If you have any questions about the products that I mentioned that I didn't talk about in this video, please feel free to let me know in the comments and I will answer those questions for you. Feel free to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and or found it informative. But either way, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!